Welcome back to Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets right here on Mayo Media Network. I'm your host, Hahn, taking a look at NHL Bets and DraftKings plays for Thursday, February 24th. We have 8 games to break down, but before I get into it, remember to give the show a like, leave a comment, subscribe to Mayo Media Network if you haven't done so already. Let's get into this, and we've got a great matchup to kick things off here. The Minnesota Wild in Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. The Leafs minus 155 favorites on home ice. The Wild are plus 135 dogs here on the road. The over-under is set at 6.5 for this game. The Wild have actually lost 3 of their last 4 games, including a 4-3 loss in Ottawa on Tuesday night. They've given up a ton of goals too, 23 goals in their last 5 games, starting to look leaky defensively. Don't necessarily trust their goaltending right now with what we're seeing from Cam Talbot. All of those games too that I mentioned, the 5 games where they gave up 23 goals, as you could imagine with that amount of offense that they're giving up, have gone over the total. So Minnesota has been a good over team over the last 5. The Leafs are having their struggles of their own, specifically defensively, and they've lost 3 games in a row. They had a 3 games in 4-night stretch. It was Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, and they needed a late goal in Columbus that went off the skate of Jason Spezza on Tuesday just to come away with 1 out of a possible 6 points. So it hasn't been the greatest stretch here of hockey for the Maple Leafs. They've also been giving up a lot, 15 goals over their last 3 games. Not great defensively, tons of odd man rushes, defensive breakdowns, 2-on-1s, breakaways. Goaltending hasn't been great for them either with Mrazek and Campbell, but I think the team in front of them has really struggled and has really hung these guys out to dry. So it's a different Leafs team than what we were seeing early in the season when they were playing a bit more of a tighter style. This is going to be a good hockey game. I think you could make a strong case really for either side. And with the way that both teams are giving up a ton, you'd have to lean towards the over. The over-under is up at 6.5, so it is difficult to get there. I think that's a pretty fair price for it. So I'd give a lean to the over, just the way that these teams are going back and forth. But maybe we see them try to tighten it up and know that this is a difficult game against a really tough team. So a test to try to get back to that defensive style. I think both teams are kind of looking to get back to that here with some recent defensive struggles. In terms of the money line, I'd have to give a lean towards the Minnesota Wild. I just don't trust where the Leafs are at with their game right now. I think this is a game where Minnesota will certainly get up for it. They know big game in Toronto, a lot of eyeballs. This is kind of that prove it game. We see a lot of teams come into Toronto and play quite well. So I do like Minnesota at plus 135 on the money line if I have to play a side here. Next up, we've got a much more lopsided game in terms of the betting odds. The Florida Panthers are minus 375 favorites, creeping up towards minus 500, with the Columbus Blue Jackets coming in as plus 280 underdogs. The over-under is up at 6.5 for this game and climbing, by the way. The Jackets are rolling right now with 3 wins in a row, 6 in their last 7 games. Their only loss in that stretch actually came to the Calgary Flames, who just beat everyone. They've scored 18 goals in their last 3, and Patrick Laine is on an absolute heater right now. 12 goals, 8 assists for 20 points in his last 10 games. So he's been a 2-point per game player over his last 10. And when he gets hot, he gets really hot. He's always been a confidence-driven player. So when it's not going well for him, it tends to spiral out of control. But when it's going well for him, he can get really hot. And I think we're seeing that right now. And I'm interested to see what kind of money Patrick Laine is going to get at the end of the season if he keeps this up the rest of the way. The Panthers had their 3-game win streak snapped with a very rare home loss to the Preds on Tuesday. They've been nearly unbeatable at home, though. 23-4 record still after that loss to the Florida Panthers, or after that loss, to the Nashville Predators. The over of 6.5 has also hit in 6 of their last 7 games. And that's been sort of the theme with Florida all season. They've been an over team, and we're seeing some really high totals. And I think Thursday night's another example of that. We saw this open at 6.5, and it was about minus 115 for the over. I'm already seeing it right now up to minus 135 for the over 6.5. And that's the play that I like. So it's just going to continue to get driven up. I think it's just going to continue to gather steam into Thursday, just because both of these teams are scoring right now. And people are going to look at their past games and say, yeah, this looks probably like a 5-4, 6-5 type hockey game. I could certainly see it getting there as well. The value is starting to get sucked out of the over 6.5. Now you're having to lay some pretty good juice with it. So if you can still find a good number on that over 6.5, I would play it. If you got to play the 7, it becomes a little bit more difficult. The 4-3 ends up as a push, but with the way that both of these teams can score, I would still trust the over 7. I think that we could get there with the offense on both sides and the lack of defense and goaltending at times on both sides as well. Next up, we've got a Metro Division clash here. The Washington Capitals are in MSG to take on the Rangers, plus 105 dogs on the road for the Caps. The Rangers slight home favorites at minus 125. The over-under is 6 here. The Caps have actually turned things around a little bit with a couple wins in a row, but they haven't played in a full week. So they'll be rested, maybe a little bit rusty. We've seen that be a factor for some teams recently with some choppy schedules. They've been a better team on the road for some reason this season as well. 16-5-4 away from Washington, which is a really nice record. The Rangers, on the other hand, have at least 1 point in 5 straight games and have been playing some really tight, low-scoring hockey game. If you look at their recent results, a lot of 2-1s, a lot of 3-2 finals. They have been playing that tight, close type of hockey. So they don't really run away with games. They're not a team that I ever really trust to play on the puck line because it seems like all their games are close. They've been amazing at MSG this season. I just mentioned how good Washington's been on the road. Well, the Rangers have been even better on home ice this season, 16-4-3 at Madison Square Garden. I was really curious what the price was going to be here, and I was ready to take the Caps at a decent dog price. I didn't exactly get the line that I wanted on the Caps, close to even money, plus 105. I actually think when I'm looking at the money line, there's got to be some value here with the Rangers at only minus 125 with the home record that they have. So in terms of a price there, I would prefer to bet the Rangers at minus 125 than the Caps at plus 105. I prefer over either of those, though, to go with the under 6. Anytime I see Igor Shesterkin starting, and I'm assuming that he's going to start this game, always check on Thursday, make sure he's in before you want to lock in your bet. But I like the under 6 here because I think both of these teams, and I've just said it with the Rangers' recent results, they can lock it down. They can play that defensive style. I worry a little bit about the Caps goaltending, but the Rangers aren't really a team that's going to light up the scoreboard with any sort of consistency. So the under 6 feels nice to me. That feels like a bit of a 3-2 game here. Maybe you get up to 4-2 and you end up having to push your under 6, but I think there's some value there with the under in this game between the Rangers and the Caps on Thursday night. Next up, we'll stay in the Metropolitan Division. We've got the Pittsburgh Penguins, minus 330 favorites on home ice, with the Devils coming to town at plus 260 on the money line. The over-under is up at 6.5 for this game. The Devils have lost 2 in a row and 9 of their last 11 games. They haven't looked good at all, been giving up a ton of goals, haven't been able to get a save basically since the start of the season. And they also haven't played since last Tuesday. So they'll be coming off a really long layoff, could be a little bit rusty here. The Pens have actually dropped 2 in a row to the Leafs and the Canes. So some pretty good competition. They'll look to get back on track against easier competition here in the Devils. They also have been off for a little while, not nearly as long as New Jersey, but they haven't played since Sunday. So they will be well rested for this game. I don't think I need to sell you too much on Pittsburgh here. I mean, they're minus 330 favorites for a reason. I feel like they should win this game, especially coming in, having dropped a couple recently. I think they'll get up for this one. They'll want to get back on track. Even the puck line, you got to lay some juice. It's like minus 140 for the puck line for the Penguins. So it's really difficult to play them in this instance. I think you could throw them in some parlays. If you don't mind laying that juice on the puck line, I think they should probably win this by a couple of goals, but I like the Penguins to roll. I'm not going to be putting any money on the Devils on the money line, even though it is a pretty big price, and I'm staying away from the total here as well. So I like the Pens to roll. If you can figure out a way to play them on Thursday night, I think I would squeeze them in. Next up, we'll stay with a divisional battle. At this time in the Central Division, the Nashville Predators, minus 150 favorites on home ice, with the Dallas Stars coming in as plus 130 road underdogs. The over-under is up at 5.5 for this game. The Stars will actually be playing the second half of a back-to-back here as they host the Jets on Wednesday in a really pivotal game in the Central Division. This one also will be a pivotal game in the Central Division. They had won 4 of their last 6 going into Wednesday, and they've actually made up some ground on these Preds in the Central Division playoff race. They also did just beat the Preds 4-3 recently in Dallas back on February 9th, so a little bit of history there. Nashville broke a 4-game losing streak with just a massive 6-4 win in Florida on Tuesday. They have to feel pretty good coming home because they were leaking some oil there, and I think a lot of people, maybe even themselves, expected to lose that game in Florida. They win in a place where nobody seems to be winning. You got to think that makes them feel pretty good coming home for this one. They've been okay at home with a 14-9 record, but Dallas has actually really struggled on the road this season. Much better home team. They're 10-13-1 away from Dallas, and playing on the second half of a back-to-back with some travel involved. Don't think this is the greatest spot for Dallas. It's certainly not a game they're going to overlook because Nashville is a team that they're tracking down. This is a game that you circle on the schedule if you're the Dallas Stars, but I just think that this is a much better spot for the Nashville Predators. Some good vibes after that win against the Florida Panthers coming home. So I like the Preds. Don't necessarily love laying the -150 with them here, but I think you could play them in regulation. You could go with that angle. If you want a little bit more plus money, you look to the puck line. The Preds aren't always a team I trust to cover puck lines, but they have been scoring a little bit more this year than they have in previous years. So maybe if they're up by one late, you'll have to sweat a bit of an empty net situation, but I don't mind that. I think the Preds find a way to win this game on home ice and try to get some good vibes back going after they beat Florida earlier this week. Next up, we've got an all-Canadian matchup here. The red-hot Calgary Flames, -170 favorites on the road in Vancouver to take on the Canucks, who are +150 on home ice. The over-under is up at 6 for this game. The Flames, like I said, red hot. They'll try to make it 11 straight wins when they take on the Canucks here. They haven't given up more than 2 goals in a game in their last 8. So they've been playing it tight defensively. They've also been scoring a ton. Yeah, that's going to lead to quite a few wins. Most of their wins have come in regulation and by multiple goals as well. So it's not like they're eking out 1-goal games. They're just going out and dominating teams. They actually started this streak too against the Canucks with a 1-0 overtime win where they held Vancouver to just 15 shots. So maybe it starts with the Canucks and it ends with the Canucks, and you think the Vancouver can get a little bit of revenge here, but that's a bit concerning that the Canucks couldn't even get more than 15 shots against the Flames in that game that went to overtime. Vancouver has actually been playing quite well with 3 wins in their last 4 games. The offense has come alive, 17 goals over those 4 games as well for Vancouver. So I actually like what I see from them. It's just really tough to fade Calgary right now. Like you got to be pretty brave to go click the Canucks and put actual real money down on Vancouver here. The price is nice, +150. It's just I'm a bit afraid of what the Flames are doing. And Daryl Sutter has that team rolling both ends of the ice. They can just suffocate you and just dominate the shot clock and win games by 2, 3, maybe 4 goals. So if you like Calgary, I do think you probably play them in regulation. You play them on the puck line because they're very capable of just running away with games. I'm a little hesitant because I just have a sneaky feeling Vancouver puts up a good fight in this game, but I feel like it's another good chance for the Flames to make it 11 wins in a row on Thursday night. Next up, we've got the Boston Bruins in Seattle for the first time ever. Bruins -230 favorites, Seattle +185 dogs on home ice. The over-under is up at 6 for this game. The Bruins make their first ever trip to Seattle, and they do so with a couple wins in a row, including a dominant 5-1 win over the Avs on Monday in that matinee holiday game. Most importantly, though, they will get Brad Marchand back from his 6-game suspension, and they actually did a decent job treading water with Marchand out of the lineup. They went 3-2-1 while he was gone. I think you would probably take that if you're Boston. He means so much to the offense. Seattle continues to look like one of the worst teams in the league, and they've even gotten away from the solid defense that they were playing early in the season. Their defensive metrics were always pretty good. Their shot suppression was pretty good. Now they've given up 23 goals in their last 5 games. So they can't score. They can't defend. That's usually a pretty bad recipe. Ultimately, I'm going to roll with the under here. I just think, like I said, Seattle really struggles to score. Boston can really struggle to score, even with Brad Marchand coming back into the lineup. So I think the Bruins win this game. I think they know they kind of need to get going. Maybe they get a boost with Marchand coming back in as well. Pasternak has been red hot and has kind of been carrying this team in the meantime. So I like the under 6. I think that's probably half a goal too high. I'd set this at 5.5 with the way that these teams both struggle to score. Last game, 2 teams that also struggle to score. The New York Islanders -120 in San Jose to take on the Sharks, who are even money home dogs. The over-under is up at 5.5 for this game. The Owls continue a West Coast trip that started with a 5-2 win in Seattle on Tuesday. They've actually found their offense a bit lately, which is promising for the Islanders, but still always a really difficult team to trust when it comes to offense and putting the puck in the net. The Sharks have just plummeted out of playoff contention. 7-game losing streak is certainly going to do that for you. They've lost 4 of those 7 games, though, in either overtime or a shootout. So it's not like they're getting smoked, but they're just finding ways to lose games. Coming off a shootout loss to the Ducks on Tuesday, Erik Karlsson remains out of the lineup, and it seems like with him out, they've been struggling a lot more recently. I do think this could be good value on the Sharks, though. You're getting even money, home ice. They're on this long losing streak. They're certainly going to want to break it and try to get something in the win column. And I just still don't really trust the Islanders as road favorites, even though it's a slight road favorite. I'll sprinkle a few bucks down on the San Jose Sharks at plus money to break the losing streak on Thursday night. We got some DraftKings plays here for you as well. I wanted to just kind of kick things off by looking at the top of the board. 6 skaters above $8,000 on Thursday night: Barkov, Marner, Kaprizov, Pastrnak, Ovechkin, and Matthews. I think out of that bunch, Barkov is probably my play. He's the cheapest at 8,100, and he has the best matchup against Columbus. There should be a lot of offense in that game, so I would lean towards Barkov out of that group of players. His teammate Jonathan Huberdeau also feels like value at $7,200. I mean, the guy's in the Hart Trophy race right now. Should be a popular play, though, at that price with the matchup that he has, so be careful in terms of ownership there. In the Minnesota-Toronto game, Mitch Marner continues to gain steam, as he should, because he's been playing some great hockey lately, but William Nylander has dipped down to $6,300. I think that makes him affordable. Take a chance that maybe he can get something going on Thursday night. I mentioned the Columbus-Florida game. That's a game I think you and a lot of other people should be targeting when it comes to DraftKings on Thursday night. There's going to be a lot of scoring, high event hockey game, a lot of shots on goal. Jackets have been scoring a lot, led by Laine, who's $6,200, still probably too cheap. I'm assuming will be a popular play on Thursday night. Reinhart is a name I'd like to kind of star here for the Panthers, $5,000 even. He's on that Cats top power play, and he's been playing great, shooting the puck a lot recently. Washington Rangers, not necessarily a game I'm stacking. I don't expect a ton of scoring here, but Panarin continues to be really cheap for his ceiling potential. He's under $6,000. He's a star in this league. He has potential to pop and have a big game. So I don't mind throwing him in the lineup. And the Penguins stack also makes a lot of sense. If you're looking for a specific player on the Pens, Evgeny Malkin at $5,800, almost the same price as countryman Artemi Panarin there, feels like the best value, as he seems to be heating things up a little bit here as well. That'll be it for me today, though. Thanks for listening and watching. You can find me on Twitter at jhahn4. As always, good luck with your bets and your lineups, and I'll catch you all next week.